Welcome back to SportsVibe. We've got a college football preview episode. We're going to be talking a little bit about week zero games, some on what to look forward to in week one when every single team, debuts with their first game of the season. I've been really looking forward to Rutgers-Northwestern as a Rutgers fan. It's been a long off season. A lot of improvements on both sides of the ball, especially the offense, which is kind of would be interesting for a season with Gavin Williams as a starter. And a winnable game on Sunday, CBS 12 o'clock p.m. It's on WRC, where I'm going to be in the studio for that one. So, you know where to tune in. But I guess first of all, wanted to talk about some of the games from last night, or yesterday, week zero. I guess it's the official start of college football season. Not every team plays, but they have some matchups. The kickoff game was in Ireland, Notre Dame versus Navy. Notre Dame just absolutely dominated Navy. They won 42-3. Sam Hartman looked pretty good. Navy kind of had the triple option going again. Um, not too much different. They tried to throw it a little bit more, but it didn't really work out so well. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really watch it in too much detail, but from what I saw, Notre Dame looked pretty good. Although against Navy, it's hard to tell whether they'll be like a real contender for the playoff. I don't think they will, but they look pretty good for opening week zero. A lot of Irish fans in Ireland, obviously, so it was a good atmosphere for that. And then UMass got off to a good start. They beat New Mexico State, so they're 1-0. So I mean, I think that was a little bit of an upset, although both teams were not expected to be that good. Although New Mexico State is coming off a bowl victory. They won 7-6 last and New Mexico State, yeah, they won 6-6 in the regular season. They won a bowl. So, they're not like exactly as such as I kind of thought they were, I guess. You could say. And then so pretty impressive start for UMass, although they go to Auburn next week. So that's gonna be a bit tougher. But yeah, other than that, I mean, Hawaii Vanderbilt, I think that's the other game people might have been paying attention to. Vanderbilt got off. It was a close game, and then Hawaii played well. Their quarterback, I think his name's like Schrager, like he played pretty well. Kept them in it. Vanderbilt made some good defensive plays. There were a couple interceptions. They iced the game with an interception. Vanderbilt's actually up 35-14, and then Hawaii came back. They had a chance to go try to tie the game down 35-28, and then threw another interception. So Dareke White for Vanderbilt had two picks, and I think that was like really the difference maker. Some tough defensive plays, but I mean, I don't know what that really means for anything. I mean, it's a good start, I guess, for Vanderbilt. I mean, schedule's going to get a lot tougher. You'd probably want that to be a bit more comfortable because going into the SEC slate, things are going to get a little bit harder. But I mean, they're kind of in a similar position to Rutgers in a way. They're kind of trying to like make the uphill climb. They went 5-7 last year, trying to look for bowl eligibility, and they have a favorable non-conference schedule. I think they can go 3-1 with the one loss coming to Wake Forest. So yeah, I mean, it was an exciting game for some good, um, good week zero action, probably the best one of the
Mhm.
day. That's pretty much all I watched. The USC game against San Jose State was on Pac-12 Network, so I didn't get to watch that one. Caleb Williams picked a fumble off the ground, threw for a touchdown, so that was nice. I guess he had a pretty decent performance. They kind of left San Jose State in it a little bit too much, and the defense looked shaky. I forgot what the final score was, but I think it was like 56.
56-28.
Oh, okay. So I got
56-28,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the defense looks a little bit, shaky, especially considering that's another Mountain West team that, didn't really have too much of a chance, but the offense looks pretty good. So yeah, I mean, might be a team to watch out for later on in the year, like with the Pac-12 race. Final season of the Pac-12, final season of the 14 playoff, final season of a lot of these teams where they change conferences. So it's going to be kind of one last round of what people know, I feel like. So it's going to be interesting, especially with the Pac-12 and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that kind of sums up like week zero. I'd say an exciting start to the season. I mean, it's
Mhm.
it's week zero. You can't really expect too much from week zero. I wish they put some better games in there, but that's okay.
Well, we'd say this now, week zero, because we probably won't have much opportunity to say this. Rutgers is undefeated.
True, true, true. Well,
Mhm.
here's the thing, like I said, they're playing Northwestern, right? So Northwestern went 1-11 last season. So they're kind of in even
Well,
worse
to be
shape. And then
fair,
they had
Rutgers didn't exactly have a great
they
season
only
last
went
year too.
for they went 4-8, so it's
I mean,
two
Greg
teams towards the bottom
Greg
of the division.
Schiano got paid $1 million per every win he had last season. He has a
You
four
would be
million
right.
dollar contract.
You would be right. Yeah, I mean the schedule shapes up favorably for them, where they could start 3-0 again, and you know, I talked about this on the radio show a lot, so I don't want to like go into too much detail, but the path looks like where they can go 3-0, 4-1, and 6-2, because their early season schedule is Northwestern, Temple, Virginia Tech, at Michigan, which should be a loss.
Yeah. So
Home versus
we were
Wagner.
talking. Yeah, we were
Yeah,
talking a couple weeks ago with like the Pac-12 like dissolving.
right.
So like with all these teams being added towards, and I hear it's now being called Big 12, which is uh, whatever, but you can't keep calling it the Pac-12 now but whatever. Like all these teams going everywhere, like what impact do you see it happening? Do you see it happening on like the SEC, Big Ten, and all these places, NCAA? Like what impact do you
Yeah,
see?
yeah, I see what you're saying. Definitely like a pretty big impact. Obviously, the SEC is gonna be adding Texas and Oklahoma. Um, I think they could be pretty competitive in the SEC, especially the way Texas has been playing the last couple of years. Two big brands. I think that fits regionally as well. So I think that's a pretty good move for them. Big 12 is replacing them. They've already added Cincinnati and UCF at Houston and BYU, and they're adding a few more teams from the Pac-12. Um, where are they at? In Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State, and then Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA are going to the Big Ten. So it's going to shake up college football. I mean, Big Ten, it's going to be the biggest conference. It's going to be a bit harder. We're talking about Rutgers. Like, it's going to be harder for teams like they're kind of already at the bottom of the Big Ten because those four teams are pretty good. I mean, Washington, Oregon, they're usually ranked. They're usually at least somewhat in the playoff chase, in the Pac-12 chase. USC as well. Um, obviously Caleb Williams on the Heisman. They were in the Pac-12 championship game. UCLA a little bit below that level, but still like a pretty decent team, I would say. Again, big brands. Yeah, it's only going to make things more competitive, harder. More money, of course. It's a money-driven thing. But yeah, I mean, I guess what I was trying to say about Rutgers is it's a favorable early schedule. It's like Northwestern, Temple, Virginia Tech, probably lost to Michigan, Wagner, probably win there, and then I forget who they play after that. Wisconsin's going to be tough, and then home versus Michigan State and away versus Indiana gives them a legit pass to go 6-2 in bowling, which is pretty exciting. But we will see how that one unfolds against Northwestern. They are also coming off a hazing scandal. They fired their longtime coach Pat Fitzgerald. It's a lot of changes in Northwestern, so they're going to be coming into this with their new coach David Braun. They're going to be coming into this with like an us against the world mentality. Obviously, Rutgers can't take any games for granted. I mean, obviously they're not the best team themselves, but a lot of offseason changes are there for Rutgers. For Northwestern too, they're adding a new quarterback, Ben Bryant from Cincinnati. So I mean, he's not terrible. So I feel like it'll be a kind of like one of those Big Ten games that are like very defensive, and then whichever offense is a little bit better will win the game. And I feel
Yeah.
like that could be Rutgers at home because I really don't know what to expect from
Mhm.
Northwestern in the opener. Like I really don't. I mean, so hopefully, Gavin Wimsatt shows something. And Rutgers really can't blow this game if they want to go bowling. I mean, they have to win
Mhm.
all the games they're favored in. And outside of Wagner and Temple, I feel like Northwestern is like as close to a game that they
Mhm.
should be able to win in the Big Ten. So those are like the three that I think Rutgers like should win. And then they also have to win games where they're similarly talented against like teams like Indiana, Michigan State, Virginia Tech. Those can kind of go either way, although Rutgers has kind of been better than Indiana the last few years. But if everything goes right, they can go 6-6. An upset would get them to 7-5. That might be tough, although I mean, I don't know, maybe Maryland or Iowa, although those will be a bit tough, but that's kind of how I see things going pretty much. I mean, I
Yeah.
like what they did at receiver, what they did at running back. They've got Sam Brown coming. They got guys from lower levels transferring. The offensive line's kind of shaping up. The defense has always been a strong suit for Rutgers, obviously, like Aaron Lewis, and got a bunch of guys in the secondary who can play at a high level. But if the offense can keep the defense off the field a little longer, they won't get as tired, and it'll help out because what tends to happen is the Rutgers defense will stay on the field so long because the offense keeps going three and out, and then the defense will get tired, and the other team's offense will score, and then the Rutgers offense won't, and then it just kind of spirals from there. So that's why sometimes Rutgers or also other weaker teams, they tend to start fast and then kind of disappear. So hopefully that tends to happen less this season, especially against similarly talented opponents at least. But we'll see. I mean, that's kind of the, I guess obviously as a Rutgers fan and former band member, media member, all of that stuff, like that's kind of the game circled on my calendar. Obviously, it's a standalone Sunday game, so everyone can watch it
Yeah.
on CBS.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, you
hoping one of
mentioned.
my buddies does well in Rutgers, like plays tight end. Shout out to
Oh,
you,
where?
Victor.
Victor
Kanopka.
Canoka. Yeah. He's on
No,
my
because we had a class
tight
together
end.
last semester.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice guy. I asked him a couple questions actually, like when we're working on a project, like for example, because tight end, like regardless of what position you play in football, like during the pandemic, of course, like all of us were like, of course, like starving to get outside like our houses and like
Yeah,
exercise and
right.
maybe eat decently every once in a while. So like I was asking him questions like, was dieting like during the pandemic? Because you couldn't really go to the facilities, like so like I wonder what that was like for for like a college football athletes, like.
Hmm.
And of course, like we know about the Rutgers DoorDash thing, so it's like I was
Yeah.
asking him about that, and so I had a good funny conversation with him. Nice guy, and I found out that he's a foot taller than me. So when I see
Oh,
when I
wow.
see him in semester this year, I'm gonna be like,
Mhm.
God damn, I'm short.
Yeah.
But yeah. Going back to week 0, obviously, some good teams are getting warmed up basically.
Yeah,
I
that's kind
thought,
of what it is. Yeah.
yeah. Obviously USC's defense needs, a lot of work for them to actually be in that
Yeah.
top 4, top 5
Oh,
category.
yeah.
Um, you know, I think Caleb Williams played okay. I mean, like, he had, that one good play. Other than that, I just didn't see much, I just didn't see much of screen passes, not a lot of
Yeah.
throws
Nothing
more
crazy.
than 10-15 yards downfield. Obviously he's getting warmed up for the season, but you know people that want him for repeat Heisman, they're just no, not at this point. I just
It's a little too
no,
early for that.
it's way too early, and I just don't see him repeating. I mean, like, sure, he's good, sure, he's going to be the number 1 pick next year, but just no, cool your horses down.
Yeah.
Notre Dame played, really good. I thought Sam Hartman made some great reads, great throws on the other hand.
Yeah. He looked pretty good.
Admittedly it was against, Navy, but
Yeah.
I still think, he did, a lot, he played really, really well. And
Yeah.
I did Vanderbilt, obviously, Clark Lee wants to get them into the upper tier of the SEC. They also played really well, albeit, when their home stadium is like, half garbage. So
Yeah. Under
other than
construction.
yeah, other than that, I didn't watch many of the games yesterday,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
those are my
I
takes on
I
the
guess
top
in
3.
yeah I guess another college football news, like I think a few days ago, uh like while we were talking about college football, and Arnav, you brought up USC and clicked in my
Hmm.
head. Reggie Bush, he filed the
Mm.
defamation suit. So it's like,
Oh,
like
that is Heisman.
of course we've known like from what was it 2007 or 2008, he was stripped of his Heisman for 10 years and USC basically
Yeah.
had to disassociate with him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think he will ever get his rightful trophy back?
I mean,
I
I,
mean,
I
it
I
almost
hope
seems like a
so.
lost cause at this point.
Mhm.
It does.
because
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
everyone in 2005, like I mean, of course, we you and I were only two years old then, but it's like so we didn't exactly know who Reggie Bush was. We grew up with him. We grew up watching Reggie Bush on the Saints, but anyone on USC and anyone within the college world knows that he's the rightful
Mhm.
2005 Heisman Trophy winner. And of course, I think in the record books, 2005 is shown as a blank slate, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So so basically, Reggie Bush was forced to disassociate with his rightful Heisman Trophy for the past 15 years, and maybe
Mhm.
with this defamation suit, he can finally reclaim it back. Who knows? What do you guys think?
I think he definitely, after everything they've done recently, he definitely deserves to have it back. Other than that, yeah, I just don't think, it's giving, it should deserve any more media attention than it already has. The NCAA made a mistake, they need to give it back. That's about it. That's all I think about it. You
Here,
don't need to drag this on unnecessarily.
here's
He's
the
a
thing though.
Mhm.
Yeah, but like here's the thing though. The NCAA doesn't, and really any governing body of any sports, whether it's collegiate, professional, high school, whatever. Well,
Mhm.
there's one thing all of these things have in common. None of the upper tier management likes to admit its faults. We've seen this time and time again. We've seen this time again with the MLB. We've seen this time again with the NFL. We've seen this time again with the NBA, and now
Mhm.
we're seeing with the NCAA. It's a recurring cycle, and we've definitely seen it with FIFA, and
Yeah.
sometimes the ICC, and definitely a lot of the NHL. So, and even the Olympics committee. So it's not exactly a secret that these places never like to admit their wrongdoing. So, but I mean, I hope the NCAA can swallow its pride and give Reggie Bush his his. I mean, of course, Reggie Bush still has to win the has to still win the civil lawsuit for against that, but I'm hoping he can get it back. But I really don't have that much confidence in it.
Yeah, it's like nowadays the rules are like with someone there's all this NIL and this and that. Like nowadays, like if he did what he did, like it would have been fine. But it's just at the time, like it's like against the rules and stuff like that. So I don't think the NCAA is like the way, yeah, like what you're saying, like the way they are. I don't think they like kind of go back in
Mhm.
time and be like, oh, like now it's like okay, but like it might be hard for them to swallow their pride and stuff. Now, whether they should, like, I think everyone thinks they should, but that whether they actually do or not, like, that's kind of another question. But yeah, I mean, I think you guys are right. I mean, they should give it back, and they shouldn't really be spending like a lot of media coverage and things like that. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that, too. So, um, I guess other than that, we talked about, I talked about the Rutgers-Northwestern week one game, which has been, highly anticipated both, if you're a Rutgers or Northwestern fan, or even just nationally because of its spot on, national TV on primetime and whatever. It's a good shot for both teams to really show what they can do,
Yeah.
because they don't really get those chances as much as other schools. But and other week one games, like what else are you guys like, looking forward to? There's a lot on the slate week one that is intriguing, and I'll be sure
I
to pay
think
attention.
I think there's one game that everybody's gonna watch, LSU FSU.
Oh yeah, Sunday night, yeah.
Other
It's
than
gonna be
that,
the game of the week for sure.
there's also Florida Utah. I think
That's
that
a
might
good
be
one
an
too.
interesting game to see how, how both teams look.
I'll
Right.
be
New
honest, I didn't
quarterback,
know. I'll
Florida.
be honest, I didn't know Utah had a college football team. I,
Yeah,
I
they're
Um,
back to
I'm
back
genuine.
Pac-12 champions.
yeah.
No, I'm genuinely serious with that.
It's
Like
okay.
that's how little I follow college football.
It's
But
kind of funny
Uh,
that they're like the team who actually won the Pac-12 when they have like other bigger teams like Oregon, Washington, and
mhm.
USC, and
USC,
UCLA,
Yeah.
and it's like Utah. They
UCLA.
just they just play, and their style works, and they
Mhm.
I wonder if Cam Rising is going to be able to come back for that game. I think they're still trying to figure that out, so that might be game time
Mhm.
decision. If he does, I think Utah. I know they lost to Florida last year, but I think they're this year they'll be better. Florida's starting Graham Mertz, who used to play for
Mhm.
Wisconsin, so a bit of a change there as well. It should be a good game. Definitely one of the best
Mhm.
games in the non-conference or in the whole week in general. It's on a
Yeah.
Thursday night, another standalone game. I think it's on
Mhm.
ESPN. I think
I
that's one to
think,
watch.
yeah. Some other
Yeah.
good games. Colorado at TCU.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
Coach
Mm,
Prime's debut.
right.
That'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Against
Another
yeah.
one.
Yeah,
hmm
This.
TCU made
TCU in
look
the national
TCU made
championship
it to,
last year.
and
Yeah.
and they got hammered.
They
They
did.
got they
But
got MC hammered.
yeah.
They really
I
did.
think another underrated one might be West Virginia, and Penn State. That seems
Yeah,
like
that one should be
that's
good.
that's intriguing,
It
to say the
is. And
least.
it's a night game
Um,
at Penn State.
yeah,
Those are
another
always
one,
fun.
big one. UNC South Carolina.
Oh
Obviously
yeah.
South Carolina,
hmm
was pretty good
South
last year.
Carolina's yeah.
And then
UNC with Drake May.
Oregon State. Obviously you have DJ Uiagalelei's first start there versus San Jose State.
And
So
that's also a
yeah.
Sunday game actually in between
Mhm.
Rutgers Northwestern, LCFCU. So Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the
Mhm.
head. I think LSU, FSU. I think that's probably like you said, that's the game of the week. Last year that went to, I forget, did it go to overtime? I think LSU scored a touchdown in the final seconds, and they had to recover a fumble, do that, then they drove down the field, they scored a touchdown, tied the game, and then they missed or they didn't tie the game because they missed
Mhm.
the extra point. Florida State blocked it, and they ended up winning, and it was like a thriller. And then both teams ended up being really good that season too.
Mhm.
Florida State huge progress. LSU won the
My
SEC
favorite
West,
Flo
so.
my favorite Florida player of all time, Marco Wilson, because he threw a shoe and threw
Drew
the
the
game.
shoe. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it's always
So
a fun
yeah,
funny
those are
moment.
some yeah, those are some good games. I'm really intrigued to see how that goes. I have
Me too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
I
FSC
guess
LSU
like
is definitely the game for the week.
outside
Yeah.
I guess things like outside of college football, like things I'm excited for. The MLB final weeks are counting down, so like
Mm-hmm.
definitely like I know most fans tend to like after the opening month, most fans tend to tune out like maybe a bit from late May to like I guess like
The summer.
till the trade deadline in August. And so now the playoff race is finally heating up. Um, so and of
Yeah.
course, like
The
we
Yankees and
already
Mets
know the
are
fate.
very out of
Yeah,
it.
well, we know the fate of certain teams. We know the
Yeah.
fate, and we don't know the fate of certain teams. Like right now, like I mean, if you look at the AL West right now, like Seattle, Texas, and
Mm-hmm.
Houston are
Right there.
in a three-way battle. Like one, like these three teams are I almost said Super Bowl contenders for a second, but they're World Series contenders, and it's very possible one of these three teams ends up missing the playoffs, which will definitely be a tragedy. Like I definitely like to see Seattle make it again, but I did I did pick Houston to win the division, but like I said before in a previous episode, ALCS, I'd love to watch a battle of Texas, Arlington
Mm.
versus
Me
Houston. Well,
too. Me too.
Arlington is essentially Dallas, but I'd love to see that battle. And of course, like Baltimore and Tampa Bay, like
Yeah,
seeing who wins the AL
nice
East
race
there,
going on there. Yeah.
that'd be
Mhm.
interesting. Like and it's funny because the AL East is probably the best division right now, and at a time, at a certain time, all teams were 500 or above, and like really like Toronto and Boston are contenders for the wild card. The Angels, uh, their window may have closed,
Yeah,
especially
unfortunate.
Trout going back on the IL. And Shohei,
Mhm.
unfortunately, having a UCL tear, he will not be pitching for the rest of the season. I I
That
was so
that's a huge, that's a
It's a
huge
huge
boon to his
blow. Yeah.
contract as well.
I was so devastated. Yeah, he could have definitely got himself like a Mahomes like contract, like probably more,
Well,
probably
no,
It's
more,
baseball money too. So
more.
probably
mm.
more. I mean, now, I mean, has his value diminished as a hitter? Absolutely not, because he's still raking. Has his value diminished as a pitcher?
Yeah.
Definitely. And especially Ohtani had Tommy John surgery already once before in 2017, 2018, one of those years.
Hmm. Yeah.
So this is definitely going to be a an interesting situation. See the Shohei sweepstakes. Like maybe this can convince the Angels that they can buy him back, but I highly doubt
Hmm.
it since Artie
Yeah.
Moreno's reign as an owner has been pretty terrible. 20 has been a 20-year terrible tragedy for anyone who's played in the Angels relatively. And of course, like going to the NL, the Braves are just on a
Oh
tear.
yeah,
The,
so
the
rolling.
Dodge the Dodgers are
Dodgers look
unfortunately
great.
good. Damn the Dodgers. And the NL Central is really interesting right now. Milwaukee and Chicago and Cincinnati. I mean, Chicago and Cincinnati,
Hmm.
they're in a race for the wild card. They're not too far behind from Milwaukee. The NL, like the Giants are on the outside looking in. Miami is still a threat to make the wild card. The only team that's a quote unquote contender, not fully in, not fully out, and the only one that's really confusing is, of course, the San Diego Padres, because out of all the teams I've mentioned in the wild card race, uh, they're and really like record wise, they're the they're the only team that's below 500 that has a positive run differential right now. They have a plus 57 run differential right now, and sitting at where they are, And like considering that there's not a whole lot of games left in the season, they're in a very interesting spot. And this offseason, if AJ Preller does not get fired, I don't know what the hell to think. But I mean, and of course, as we know, the Greek tragedy known as the New York Mets and the burning down of Rome known as the New York Yankees, both have been a different type of awful. But I've repeatedly said over the past couple of weeks that the New York Mets are in a far better position than the Yankees, simply because the Mets realized their window was closing, like
That's true.
before the trade deadline, and they cut their losses and they're retooling. But it seems as though, to me, I don't know about you, it seems as though the Yankees upper management is too afraid of admitting failure. What do you think,
Yeah.
Arnav? You're a Yankees fan. Well, give me your insight.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it didn't really help that Aaron Judge was injured for so long, and they just kind of fell behind off the race. And then like their trade deadline strategy wasn't great either, because it's like
They
kind
didn't
of didn't
have a
really do
trade
much
deadline
either.
strategy.
They
They didn't
hardly
have a
did
trade
anything.
deadline
They got
strategy.
like
They
one
just traded for
reliever.
Kenny and Middleton, and that's it.
Yeah, and
And
they
then
needed
the
more
big
hitting, and they got like a reliever, and then I think they demoted him to AAA,
And
and
then-
that's like all they did. So it's just
and
like one
then
of those things.
and then the 9-game losing streak that they had recently. That's
Yeah.
obviously a
I thought they would at
huge.
least be like over 500, which they were for a while, and then they just dipped under, and then I was just like, okay, like
I'll
wow,
tell
this
you
is
what
really
happened. Stanton turned into the strikeout king he was. Josh Donaldson still continues,
Yeah,
still continuing to get starts for some reason, even though he's just god awful. And of course, what's his face? I'm forgetting his name. Of course, Aaron Judge was injured. Like, there's no hiding that.
right.
And of course, like when the Yankees cut Aaron Hicks and he gets picked up by Baltimore, magically Aaron Hicks is good again.
Yeah.
But obviously I think the biggest caveat was Anthony Rizzo, because if you're watching like the first 6 or 7 weeks of baseball, he was one of the best hitters in baseball. Like, there's not a question there. And then after that play with Tatis, where he took a knee to the head.
Oh yeah.
No, but here's the thing I don't understand. Why the hell is Rizzo still in the game for 2 months? Like 2 months, like
Yeah.
and then he went
And
on
then
the
they
IL
traced
for
it
getting
back to that.
concussion. Like, he literally went from one of the best hitters in baseball to the absolute worst. And the Yankees still allowed him to play for 2 months when he's having concussion like symptoms, like especially when he took that knee to the head. What the hell was their medical staff thinking? Everyone in that medical staff should be fired, along with Aaron Boone, along with Brian Cashman.
Yeah.
And if owners could be fired, Hal Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
What the Yankees, they've plunged into Niagara Falls. And I know New York City is geographically nowhere near that of Buffalo. It's about like 7-hour drive, but still, like, they went that far to sink that below. Like, I legitimately do not understand how the Yankees have just been like so dismal like this. Like, at least the White Sox, like, they were also supposed to be World Series contenders. Like, they realized that they suck, and even though they worked all this way to, and then 2021 they were supposed to be World Series contenders. They worked all this way to effectively gain nothing out of their rebuild and sell off their losses. And of course, they took 2 L's in one night against Cleveland the other day, when Jose Ramirez knocked down Tim Anderson in that fight. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. That was crazy.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, the Yankees have always been that one team that tries to cling on to something too long, and they just can never admit its faults. Like, and we've seen the story before. Arnav, as you know, with your favorite team of all time, the Dallas Cowboys, that, like, ownership is trying to cling on to its past glory for far too long, and refuses to admit its faults, and fails to see its own underdoing. And I assume you're not going to complain about the Dallas Cowboys never learning their lesson, but I imagine that you're fairly frustrated at Yankees management right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I am. I mean, I think kind of in a different way, but similar to the Mets. It's just like both teams had such high, aspirations, and they both just went like down south, and like
I
nothing
mean,
even worked out. They're not even playoff teams, and
yeah,
at least the Mets knew when to cut their losses. Like you said, the Yankees didn't, and like it looks even worse now. So
I
yeah,
think it's
that's kind
because
of
they
how I
refuse
feel.
to admit their mistakes. I mean, and of course, Capel, you're a Braves fan, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, and I am, very happy with what they've done this year.
Oh,
You
they
know,
look great. Yeah,
best team in baseball.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's
They just
not
keep
really
winning.
like the only team you can make an argument for number one, aside from Atlanta, is probably Baltimore. But other than that, like
LA,
Atlanta's
unfortunately.
Atlanta's been killing it, and that's who like let's not forget like you basically have your core locked up for at least the next 4 years or something like that. So and they're all signed to pretty small deals. Uh like certain players, like I think like if you add up the AAV, the annual value of Matt Olson, Ozzy Albies, and I believe Ronald Acuna, that's I think that's somewhere around like maybe like $6 million more than what Fernando Tatis makes in a year. Like that's
Mhm.
incredible value, and that's who Acuna is probably going to be the NL MVP this year, assuming that assuming that Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman doesn't take that away from him. But I think it's Acuna's MVP to lose. But still, like that's incredible value right there. The Braves are definitely in the making of a dynasty. Well, assuming they
Mhm.
win one this year and probably win another one in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Like the Braves are definitely in the making of a dynasty. So
Mhm.
should definitely be fun to watch. And frankly, I'd take a Braves dynasty over a Dodgers dynasty. I hate the Dodgers. The
Mm,
Dodgers have been good for far
yeah,
too long. I hate them with a
Yeah.
burning passion. So
Mhm.
should be
well,
fun to watch.
as long as it's not an Astros dynasty, I think I'm like pretty cool with
Yeah,
with
well,
whatever. But you
Mhm.
know what I mean?
well,
Yeah,
Houston, as long as they have a pulse, they're guaranteed to
Mhm.
win. I mean, well, maybe not guaranteed, but they're guaranteed
they're at
guaranteed
least
to
going to
put up
be
a put
a
up a good fight.
contender every year. Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's
the
who the
roster is
that's who the Astros are contending pretty well without without some of their best players like Luis
exactly.
Garcia. He was lost due to Tommy John earlier, and of course they had injuries
Mhm.
early in the season to Altuve, your favorite player Arnav,
Yeah.
and Yordan Alvarez, and
Mm.
I think McCullers is on the IL right now. But Houston, they've been able to battle back, and of course they got their old friend back in Verlander, and
Mm.
uh, of course, like forget Battle of ALCS with with the Rangers and the Astros. We'll have Justin Verlander facing off against Max Scherzer again,
Mm.
which will be awesome. I mean, if you guys remember 2019, that was an awesome matchup. Like Washington Nationals versus Justin Verlander. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
versus the
This is
Houston
that.
Astros.
Yeah.
Scherzer
Mm.
versus Verlander. Scherzer got the best of that one. So
Mhm.
we'll see if Verlander gets the best of this one in the ALCS, or if Max Scherzer becomes 2-0 against his former teammate. Both aces, both Hall of Fame candidates, both legends. So it should definitely be a fun battle.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
something else that's
I hope
coming
that's
up in a
going to be the
month.
matchup.
Yeah, something else that's coming up in a month. I don't know if you guys are tuning into it. I'm gonna start actively paying more attention to the ICC, uh, the
Cricket.
the yeah, the Cricket World Cup.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. I can't wait for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a
yeah.
good time.
Mhm.
Let's see, India. Just make sure you repeat 2011 for this year. No pressure,
Right.
but
Yeah,
like
it's at
For
home.
real.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
at
it's in
home.
India.
So
So
yeah.
2011 was also at home. So who
we
knows?
mm,
won
who
we
knows?
won then too.
Yeah,
So
we beat Sri Lanka in
Yeah.
the final.
yeah, I had one kid.
But
So yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I guess um I guess maybe a closeout question like we can ask
Mhm.
like given that some of these events occur, like I want your rankings on this personally on like the top three here. Like given that these events are like the Olympics where they happen like once every couple of years, I want you to rank these from best to worst. I mean, I think I know where this is going. I know where my ranking is going because biased picks, obviously. Rank these three: ICC, the WBC, World Baseball Classic, and FIFA. Where would you put that in your
FIFA,
best?
it's probably FIFA, ICC, and World Baseball Classic, unfortunately.
All right. How about you, Arnav?
Yeah, I'd probably say the same because FIFA, the World Cup in soccer, like that's the one everyone knows. It's such a big deal.
Yo, did you know the second biggest sporting
It's
event in the world is cricket? That
it's
has
cricket, yeah,
two
and
and a half
obviously,
billion.
yeah, and I really enjoy, I don't watch cricket a ton, but when I do, I really enjoy it. I was down with Kapil. We're at like cricket tournament. It's a really fun game, and obviously, being an Indian American, and that's one of the biggest sports in India. That has an effect on that too. So I'd
And of
say
course,
FIFA,
and of course,
ICC.
being a former baseball player, like I love both cricket and baseball. Like I
Hmm.
grew up a lot more with
Mhm.
baseball rather than cricket.
I see.
I only started to get back into cricket recently, but given my ranks, I put and hence the bias right here because I'm more comfortable and more familiar with baseball. Put the WBC first, then the ICC, then FIFA because I just don't like soccer. Like it doesn't appeal to me.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
even with Messi like doing, I'm not saying what Messi is doing right now with Inter Miami isn't impressive. Like
it really is.
soccer just does not appeal to me. Like I find a badminton match more. No,
I mean, I could see why.
I'm not taking a swipe at soccer here. Like I find like an intense badminton match to be more thrilling to me than FIFA. Like I've given soccer a chance. Like UEFA, Premier League, FIFA.
Hmm. Right.
It just doesn't really appeal to me that much. And of course, I just hate it when everyone just dives and acts like a bunch of sissies when they just get touched. Like it just really
That
annoys me.
that's
Like,
that's annoying, but
and
yeah,
of course, sitting in your recliner, waiting for something like the goal is like 15 miles long, and yet for some reason most games end in a 0-0 tie. Like, come on, you don't pay to watch
like
ties.
1-0.
No,
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
fair.
pay to like as sports fans, we get pissed off when well, we should be pissed off when there's a tie. I mean, of course, like if Panama tied with, I don't know, Germany, Panama would be thrilled. Germany would be pissed, of course. But
That's how it
like
is a lot of the time. One team's really happy
no,
to
but
beat
I
someone.
no, but I hate it. Ties suck in
Me too.
football.
Me too.
Like
Yeah.
but before like hockey used to have ties, like there weren't exactly favorable reviews back then. I mean, of course, now it's not favorable with like, shootout points, but still better than ties, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So that's
That's
why
fair.
I
That's
just
fair.
don't like soccer. I hate the ties. I hate the divas on the field. I hate the overacting.
That's
Mhm.
fair. Yeah. Well, that's all we have time for. We've got a very special episode coming next Monday after
Mhm.
some college football and NFL stuff. So we will see you then and have a good week.